So we're going to do this on the lathe. We're going to turn a tube, right? A nice long tube that's actually going to have the full top and body on it. And then, and I'm going to want that to be at least 12 inches long, minimum, because the body, the actual length of the mirrors inside, the ideal length for mirrors, and yes, there is actually an ideal length, is 8 inches of mirror. Apparently, anything longer or shorter than that will cause the images to go a little out of focus unless you use a lens in the eye hole, which we're not going to do. Ooh, I gotta do cap too. I gotta make a cap. So body at 8 inch, top at 2.5 inch. The idea being, if you see this cutaway, this is going to be the body, and we'll cut it in here at the end, down to only 3.5 inches diameter. It will sit down into the lid, which we will turn separately. This is kind of a cutaway view of it. So the lid will come like this. There's the disc with the glass particles or whatever is going to be in it to give us our images. There will be in the body up here, there'll be these notch cut in, and the idea being that pegs, I will then insert pegs through the side of the lid to hold the lid on in place. It'll rotate. Boy, as I say this out loud, I just don't know. But this is what we're going to try. We'll see. I've decided to use 12 segments in the turning, 12 lengthwise segments. I'm not going to do a build-up. My grain will run this way. Let's put it that way. The grain's going to run long ways. So there'll be 12 long segments. I chose 12 because then I can put 3 pegs in that are spaced evenly, using the segments as a guide for spacing, and make sure the holes for those pegs are in the middle of segments. So the math on that works out to 15-degree angles for 12 segments. I want to have a 4-inch diameter on this thing. That means I did the math on this too. It's a crazy equation I'm not going to get into. It's just basically it's a number you have to multiply by, and it ends up being 1.07 inches is what I'm shooting for. So just a little more than an inch wide segments. That's on the long edge of the segment. Going to want them to be at least a 1/2 inch thick, because I got to be able to cut this down to 3.5 up here. Let me show you the wood that I'm planning to use. Because this is kind of an experimental one, and just to see if it's going to work or not, I just used some wood that I've got laying around the shop, some leftovers, and I don't have much to choose from, unfortunately. But I found this. I've had this for a long time, this maple, this very figured maple. Is that on the screen there? Yeah, it is. I love this figured maple. I've been saving these 2 chunks of wood for a very long time, actually. Always thought I'd make a box or something, but it's going to be a kaleidoscope. And they happen to be, unfortunately, just the right length, now that I wish they were longer. The short one is 12.5 inches. That might be enough. We'll have to do some figuring. Because I don't have enough of this to go all the way around to do all 12 segments, I'm going to do 3 segments of this, which is sapele. So we're going to have maple and sapele. They look kind of nice together. There'll be 3 evenly spaced segments. Those 3 segments can be the ones that I put the pegs in, so that could look nice as well. So anyway, this is what we're going to do. I put together this little jig for ripping my segments at 15 degrees. I just like, because we're going to be getting into some thin parts here, I don't like being close to the blade, of course. This allows me to hold thin parts, push them through, has a little space to drop off. I've got it set up with the fence set up to give me the correct thickness to get me this. I just made a little test cut here. Just took an old piece of poplar and cut it up to test it and see what I get. It's actually less of a diameter than I was expecting, so the tangent that I used to calculate may have been wrong. I believe that and for those that know about kaleidoscopes and really understand kaleidoscopes, please excuse my lack of knowledge of the correct terms, but the plastic puck that's going to hold the colorful things will sit in here. You can see my pencil marks here. It's about where I estimate them to be. I don't actually have them yet. They're on order, what I'm going to try to use for them. But I know that they're 80 millimeters across, and that's where that ends up. So we'll turn them down to there, and then everything else will build in. One thing I do want to mention, a couple of things. First of all, look how good I did on this on first try. Usually when I set up an odd degree, I have to take a couple of tries to adjust it, but this is honestly, and it's only zip tied together, not glued. I mean, it's really, really good. I also have just enough experience cutting segments to know that it looked great on the set test piece, and once I actually cut this wood and put it together, I'm going to be like, ah, where'd these gaps come from? But I know a trick or two to compensate for those, so I think we're going to be okay here. Like I said, I like this wood because of this cool figuring in it, and I want to have that as it goes around as the segments come around. I would like to have that shape continue across them as much as I can where it does cross. And normally, if you want to save wood, conserve wood, and have less waste when you do something like this, you would alternate this board on every other cut. All right, so that so basically as you're cutting, these would be, every other one would be flipped, and you'd be sharing that cut across two pieces. Problem with that is you lose this continuity of the figuring and of the grain. So I'm actually going to be doing 2 cuts for every piece. There'll be waste in between, but all we will lose between them on the figuring then is the thickness of the blade. Well, technically a touch more than the thickness of the blade because the blade is angled. That gives you a little bit wider of a curve there, but you get the idea. Okay, all 12 pieces are cut. I think they're going to glue up a little bit rough here, but we'll see. The other thing is the gap, the jump in the grain here ends up being bigger than I even expected it to be. I knew there'd be a jump. I didn't think it'd be that big. If these pieces were extra long, like I wish they were, I would adjust them in the glue up like this to help hide that, to kind of move them together to get that continuity around the piece. But you can see that's a fairly big jump required to do that off the ends, and I just don't have enough, so it's going to get glued as it is. These are cut. Going to work on gluing them up. Hopefully hopefully I did good enough on these cuts to get tight bonds with no gaps, but we'll see. All you can do is put it together and find out. So first round of glue ups went pretty well, I think, especially considering the less than stellar job I had done cutting these. They glued up pretty easily. The first glue ups are always nice because they clamp so easily. Okay, these are all glued up now into sets of 2. I'm going to show you my plan of attack. Instead of just jumping right into the next glue up, I want to kind of show you how I'm going to go about clamping it because it is tricky. First, let me mention what I'm going to do is I won't be gluing all 6 sets of 2 into 3 sets of 4. Which might seem like the thing to do, but really it's not, because what I want to end up with are 2 sets of 6. So I'm just going to start by making a couple sets of 4, then once I've got that, I'll add another set of 2 to get 6. And the reason for that is because inevitably, once I have these into halves, which is 6, it's not going to sit flush on the bottom where I'm going to put the 2 halves together. They're just not going to line up right. They're going to be off a little, especially with the crappy job I did cutting them. But what I can do then, for the little bit that they end up being off, I can run the 2 halves over my planer to kind of square those up with each other and then glue them together. Makes your circle not perfectly circle, but we're talking about such a small amount that once I turn this on the lathe, you will never know. Okay, so here's how I'm going to go about getting these into 4. You can't, if you just clamp them from the sides, on these edges, it wants to pop up like this. If you just clamp it from above, it wants to, of course, pop out like that. It's a real nuisance. So, and I'm just going to do this on a dry run. I'm not going to glue it now, but just to show you, and then I'll go back and glue them up. I start with them together, and this is just, by the way, a board sitting on a couple of 2x here to give me room to put clamps. So put these together and make sure I've got, I want my seam here right where I want it. And then I start just very loosely with a clamp on the top, just enough to put it there for right now. That's to keep this from popping up when I squeeze. And once I got that together, then I'm going to come on the side and go ahead and give it that little squeeze, which will also tighten up. Oops, hold on, the pad on my clamp is not on. There we go. So that'll just tighten this one up a little bit. You can kind of see together. You want to look and make sure they still look like they're in the right place. They are. Awesome. Then, whoops, I'll tighten this up a touch more. There we go. And then spin it around. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. again, we're just going to start loosely here. And by the way, I do use, for my glue, I'm using Type-On 3, which supposedly has like an 8-minute setup time. I will tell you, you have less time than that because these long edges they suck up glue pretty fast. So you don't want to dawdle when you go to do this, but you do have enough time to do what I'm doing right now. Same thing there, we'll pull these in. Now, once you got all 4 of those in place, now you can kind of go around and really tighten it. Again, watching your joint, making sure it's in the right place. Oops, boy, that pad just really doesn't want to cooperate. We're going to switch this out before we do the actual glue up, I can tell you that right now. So there we get that on, tighten this. And then, once you got it like that, this is pretty well secured together now. You can even come back to the center, which I definitely want to do with this one because I can see it needs it. And then you can go ahead and clamp the bejesus out of that, get it in there nice and tight. Check your ends again. And at that point, it's good. It's going to glue up from there. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do that twice. Do it for this 4, the 4 off the other end, then we'll put them into 6, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so with that done, it's time for us to take these and put the 2s on them here to make them into half circles. And I'm going to go do that. Same method, the exact same method for clamping. One on the top to keep it from doing that, and then on the sides. Let's get this unclamped now and take a look at what we're dealing with to put our 2 halves together. So, let's pull all these babies off here. Now, there's a half. If we look at this, let me see if I can actually show you this. If we look at the ends here, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell looking at it, that is not level. And of course, the easy way to do it, if we bring the camera around over here a little bit, if I put it on the table saw, you can clearly see that ain't sitting flat and level. And in fact, if I grab the other half over here and I bring them together to show you. Oh wow, it's actually not even close. Oh wow, we have problems here. This is really bad. Well, this is quite a bit worse than what I usually get. Usually I have a small gap. This is a really bad. Those are not going together well at all. I think the way to fix it's going to be the same as I would do for a small gap though. I'm going to run each side, each half over my jointer until they sit down flat, and then we'll see what we're looking at. Wow, that's just way off. Yeah, as I said, I did a poor job cutting these, honestly. It all comes down to, well, the way I cut them on the table saw, and just it wasn't my best effort, frankly. So we're going to see what we can do about it, though, on the joiner. So let's do that. If we look at this now, they actually go together nice. It's not a perfect circle anymore, but it will be once it's on the lathe. And both sides actually sit together really nice. So now we're just going to glue this guy up. Glue up is complete. And honestly, it's a little oblong, but it's not as bad as what I thought it was as I was gluing it up. I mean, it's going to wobble a little bit on the lathe, but I don't think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to round out very nicely, and I think it's going to be good. I did take some quick measurements just to kind of sketch out and make sure I've got enough here, and I do. I would love to have a little more than I actually have, but it's all going to work so far. Despite my efforts to make this thing not work, it seems sometimes it actually is going to work out. And I've become optimistic about the whole project again. So the next step will be to square off the ends. We'll square those off on my miter saw, attach a piece of wood on the end here that will be the cap, which this guy's ready for the lathe. Got our Sapele top put on there. It's glued up. I think it's good to go. I think it's going to do all right. It's going to be a little wobbly at first, but it should round off really quickly. And I'm feeling pretty happy with it. I do have that one little gap that opened up during gluing, but it appears to be really just down off the end, and I think it's only barely going to even be part of the final Kaleidoscope. We'll see. I did mock up just with some cardboard. This is the largest size that I would expect my mirrors to be. These are 1.5 inches wide. I think it's going to be more like 1 1/4, but I thought, hey, let's just make sure. I just wanted to make sure that I'm right about them fitting inside. No problem, room to spare. We're actually going to have to figure out a way to secure that, so we'll do that when the time comes. But I just wanted to make sure before I put this on the lathe that I do not need to hollow this entire thing. I don't need to turn the entire inside, and I don't. So with that, we're going to get this bad boy on the lathe and see what we can do with it. And here it is, all mounted up on the lathe. Let's see how bad the wobble is. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's respectable. We can work with that. All right, and that's what we'll do. We'll get to it. Time to make a mess. Before I get started, just let me say that I have no actual training on how to use the lathe. I love to use the lathe, but I've just always figured it out on my own. Sometimes with terrible results, but most of the time with great results. So if you know how to use a lathe, like if you're an actual turner and you're watching this video and you've got some tips you could leave for me in the comments, I'd be more than happy to read them, because like I said, this has just always been a trial and error thing for me. But let's make this look like a kaleidoscope if we can. Here we go. Okay. All right, so we're down. This got down to my 3.5 inches, like right on it, and thankfully it is round. I was worried I was still going to see a flat spot, but I don't. So that's my depth right there. This is actually larger than it needs to be still, which maybe I want it to go up a little. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe instead of an hourglass, we'll have it just taper. What do we think about that? I kind of dig that. Maybe this is just going to taper like a cone instead of an hourglass. As long as I keep, and I'll need to mark where everything's going to be, as long as I keep where the cell's contained at 3.5, then the rest can then become a cone if I want. I kind of dig that idea as I'm picturing it. I think that'll look kind of nice. Okay, so I got this marked out. This being the body. That's going to be the body of the kaleidoscope. This is the end piece. This is the piece I really need to make sure I keep at least 3.5. That's my estimate. And then I raised up from the estimate, kind of a safety zone, like don't go past that. I really wish I had done this. If I had done this before I turned this around while it was still square and I could have put this on, then I could have been very accurate with this. Just didn't think of it. Just didn't think of it. But I'll know for next time. But yeah, I think as long as I don't go past that line, I should be fine. So didn't have to go very far to get to 3.5. So this taper is going to be almost like practically invisible. You're not even going to be able to tell. So now I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and do this more square, and then we'll taper, we'll maybe do a swooping taper into here. So that's the plan right now. Making it up as we go. Man, I just realized too, not only does that feel really deep, but I'm going to actually have to go deeper for the notch that's going to be the groove that holds the cap on. That's going to be nerve-wracking. That's going to be nerve-wracking. Man, I want to just try to put my mind at ease again. I mean, I should still have a lot of space there. I should still be okay. It just doesn't feel like it, but I should be okay. In case it wasn't clear as to what this is, by the way, it's essentially a tenon. It's a tenon that the top is going to slide over, right? And it'll have a groove in here, so the top will slide over. There'll be holes in the top that I put pegs through that fit into that groove, holds the top on, allows the top to spin. So up next is to measure where that groove goes. I'm going to measure what depth I'd like it to go. Making sure that I leave enough to not go through, at least in my best estimate that I'm not going to go through. And that's what we're going to cut next. Okay, so I ended up going down about 3/8 of an inch. Did not go through. Yep, got to make it a little wider though. This is the kind of dowel I intend to use. So it's going to need to be a little wider, but I think the depth is going to be good. It should be deep enough to hold these. Would love it to be a little deeper, truthfully. But I think that's deep enough that it will do the job. I'm not going to push my luck further than that. So I'm just going to widen this a little bit, and then we'll be good. Bingo. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, very little play, just enough that I know it'll move smooth. Nice. All right, I'm pretty happy with this form. Maybe a little bit of a hump here still I want to smooth out. Pretty happy with the form, so I'm going to smooth out this hump, and then we'll go to switch to a different knife that's better for smoothing this. And yeah, we're really making progress here. This is great. I want to clean this up too. So yeah, a little cleanup now. We're honing in on it for sure. So I'm taking off as much as I can here from the side before I switch off to the end to work on it. The less cutting I do from the end, the more comfortable I am. We're going to part this. I'm going to part this off. And then we will work on the top. Then we'll remount this and fix the cap. That's the plan. Seriously, we got to be like, yep, I see my first little sign of hitting the bottom edge right there. I can actually, look at this, I can poke through right there. So that means time to switch to a saw to cut this off. There we have it. Back this guy off a little bit. We'll attempt to back this guy off a little bit. There we go. Look at how much room we had yet. Well, I mean, when you consider in here. Yeah, okay, I'm comfortable with that. So there we go. This is, it's a little beefy, isn't it? Well, it's a little beefy. Maybe I should have thinned this all the way. Couldn't have done too much more. It's going to be nice. Okay, so there's the body waiting for its next step. We'll set it aside and work on the lid. So here's how I'm measuring this. So this is going to sit inside of here. So it's going to go that deep. Plus this is the cell. The cell will be on the end of it there. Plus about a 1/4 inch for the lip that will hold the cell from the outside. hold the cell in place. So there's our mark. It's gonna be right about there, maybe a little more to be safe. So anyway, there or just a touch more. My concern is I do it all at this thickness all the way down. Then I got to reach in and do just the part that the cell sits in a little bit wider. And I just, oh wait, but then how would I get the cell in? Because this isn't wide enough to put, oh no, the whole thing's got to be the size of the cell. The whole thing's got to be the size of the cell. Well, shoot, okay. So now what we're hoping is that when we put the dowels in, where's my little piece of dowel, that when I set the dowels in place, that they are enough to keep this from wobbling in there. And maybe they will be. But note for next time, this tenon needs to be the same diameter as the cell. Or more. It needs to be minimum the same diameter as the cell. Okay, well, is what it is. We're going to continue. We're going to cut down our groove in here for the cell and the insert, making sure we stop short of going off the end because, you know, that's what's going to hold this from coming through. So let's do that. I wrote a little note. I wrote myself a note so I know for next time. Tenon must be at least the same diameter of cell. So this is why we keep all of our old plans. Actually, what I'll do often is go back when I'm done and rewrite this and make it neater with more detailed notes. But note taken. Set up here to start working on the turning the inside. And I got several tools to choose from. I don't know what's going to be the best, so we're going to do a little trial and error here. There's this guy that I use on the outside, and thinking he might actually work pretty well. We'll see. Of course, there's always the good parting tool. I've also got this dude here. He may be good. He looks to me like what I see people online using. And of course, I got a couple of carbide guys to choose from. I got this guy here with the round bit, and maybe thinking more towards the end, I might want to use him. And I got this thing here that frankly I don't know what to do with. I've had it for the longest time. I can never quite figure out the best way to use it. I definitely need to lower the tool rest if I'm going to try this one. But so these are my tools that I'm choosing from, and we'll see. We'll see which one does the job. That felt violent. Oh yeah, look at it. Yeah. Now of course it's going to be violent for a while until I actually make it round, I suppose. Alright, so using the parting tool, I'm working on getting it round. So far pretty good with the parting tool. As I'm looking in there, I'm definitely not round yet, but I'm getting there. I may switch to something else. I will want it round all the way through at, you know, about the diameter that I'm doing it at. But then I will only do take it out to this line that I've got marked here, only to the depth of this, so the cell can sit in there, the cap can fit in, but then it'll become the cover to hold everything in. After trying a few tools here, this is my winner. This guy's getting the job done. Yeah, I'll show you a little bit. He's a winner. Okay, we got this round all the way down to full length. Hooray for us. I kind of wanted more lip than that, but I did what I could do. Now I need to take just to the depth of just to this deep, I need to take it out to this ring. So that's what I'm working on now. And this thing makes quick work of it. I can't believe how quickly this takes off material. So this should only take a moment or two. Okay, a couple of things here as I work on it. Like I said, this takes material off quick. I'm not doing it all the way to the full depth that I'm going to want. I'm just getting started here. And as I approach the line, we're going to take a lot of pauses. Ooh, I got a little bit of a lip there. We'll clean that lip up here in a second. We're going to take a lot of pauses and check and see if our cell fits in there. As soon as I figure out where I set the cell down, hang on. So we're going to just every now and again, as we creep up on it, because we really want to be accurate about this, we'll check. And you can see we still got a ways to go, as the line will tell. Okay, there we go. So there's our size. Ooh, that's actually money, money, money. That is right, on the money. All right, well, we know the depth now. Now we're just going to take the rest of this down to that depth. Okay. Ho ho. I tell you what, I don't like to throw the word perfect around, but I believe this may be. This just might be. So we're going to do a test fit on all of this. And there she is. Perfect. Oh, I hate how much play there is in that. Boy, I really hate that mistake. So, again, the mistake being that the diameter of this really needed to be, at minimum, the diameter of my cell. You know, next time, and it will be. This time, I'm not sure what kind of result we're going to get on the mechanism up here. But, yeah, this is where we're at. Unless I can think of a better way. Unless I can, it's not, okay, now we're probably getting a little wacky. If I could put a ring around this edge, we're going to try to correct this mistake if possible. But this is what it's going to look like. This is what the Kaleidoscope body will look like in full. This guy turns on here to rotate that cell, or actually, more specifically, this guy turns. Cool. All right, so anyway, the next steps will be to take this off, turn it around, and do the top, finish up the end of it. We're going to part it off here. I put a pencil mark on here for the final depth and final length, and we will leave just a hair more than that. So we use this old trusty guy, is what I was getting at, to square up the end. Put a soft curve on the corners, and this is now ready to be sanded, and then pull it off. Working on this end now, the same way, with the same knife. Okay, this is ready to come off. We're ready to move on to the next step, I think, which will be working on the color cell. Hey everybody, this is Dave coming with a little piece of video shot after the fact. First of all, thank you for watching the video so far. It's been long, I know, and that's because I really wanted to show you at least a taste of everything along the way, of the decision making, of the problem solving, and of course of the actual process of making this thing. The reason I'm putting this video in here right now, this little clip that I'm filming afterwards, is to save you tons more watching of what came next. What came next was trying to make the cell with the colored bits in it, and I ended up making 4 of them before I got one that I decided I could try to use. So I'm just putting this video in to summarize it shortly instead of going through the incredibly tedious task of trying to edit the hours, it seems like, of footage that I made, and certainly to try and save you from having to sit through it. So I started by making a cell with stained glass pieces that I broke off and cut. Ended up not liking how those looked. When I sealed the cell up with a UV glue, and then used a screw. I drilled a hole in the cell to fill it with mineral oil, and put a screw into the hole with UV glue. The whole thing just ended up leaking and not holding very well. Made another one that I went through several screws and I just couldn't get the screw to stop leaking. I ended up running out to a hardware store and actually buying actual little set screws, which worked better for a few reasons. One, because they actually stopped up the hole, but two, because they don't stand proud of the cell, so it didn't get in the way of any of the mechanism of the kaleidoscope itself. And I ended up going to a craft store and just buying beads, like children's beads for making jewelry, which worked out pretty well, I think. I still believe that the cells can be done better. I just don't know how yet, but I will learn how before I make more. Let's see, what else? The other details you'd want to know. I filled the cell up just over halfway with material. And I think now that it's done, when I look at the kaleidoscope and I look through it, I'm very happy with how it looks. I wish I'd used bigger chunks of something rather than little tiny beads. And I wish my cell was thinner, because the stuff ends up kind of piling up thick, and it's a lot for light to get through, and I end up with more black in my kaleidoscope vision than I'd like. But overall, very, very happy with the results, and I just saved you so much time watching me go through this crazy process. So now let's get back to the video where things are actually beginning to work again. And by George, I think I got it. When I went after it, I decided we were going to pull no more punches. We were going to make sure this worked. So instead of using the UV resin, I used this stuff, JB plastic weld. So we went to big guns here. It's got a little bit of a yellow tint to it, but that's all going to be inside where it won't be seen. I'm not worried about that. So we JB welded it. The other change I made is I actually went out to the hardware store and bought and I bought a few of them, anticipating the potential need for more than one. They are actual little set screws instead of the screws that I've been using. These are just little tiny set screws. So I did that, which will have a lower clearance here, so this is going to be much easier to get put into the kaleidoscope with no trouble and not have it be crooked or off or anything. I wrapped it with a little bit, like I said, I wasn't going to take any chances. When I put it in this time, I wrapped it with a little bit of plumber's tape just to be sure, and then JB plastic welded the snot out of it. And we have no leaks. Fits beautifully into the lid where it goes. Excited about that. So what I've decided to do to make that ring is to 3D print it. I've got a 3D printer. It's just gonna all around be the best way to do it, I think. I started to toy with the idea of making a wooden ring, and I just think it's something that's never going to be seen. It's just going to make the lid fit nicely. So I'm going to 3D print that. Here you can see I used my drill and a chisel just to create a little recess area there for my my set screw and the little bit of glue that's on top of it to sit down into. And I'm ready to put this in now. And I will go ahead and do just a little bit of glue. I'll use that same JP plastic weld on the sides just to make sure that it sits, that it always turns with the lid. I probably don't need to actually glue it. It probably would be fine, but it's not going to hurt to do so. Now let's work on the mirror a little bit. Something about this mirror I want to point out, because this is very important for a kaleidoscope. The reflective surface of this mirror is actually on the front side. Most mirrors, the reflective surface is on the back, and you look through the glass to see the reflective surface. When light goes through that glass, you lose a little fidelity. And when light starts bouncing around inside a bunch of the glass, you're going to lose a lot of it. And your kaleidoscope, if you use that side of the glass, is going to look not as clear. It's going to look really foggy, in fact. So this has the reflective surface on the front, so there's no glass for the light to pass through. It bounces right off the surface, and the way you can check it is if you put the point of your pen, and it's going to be hard for you to see on this, I'm sure, but if I put the point of my pen up against the mirror, there's no gap between the reflection and the pen tip. They touch. Whereas on the back, where there's now glass in between, if I put it up here, there's a little gap that I can see, and as a matter of fact, it's a gap that's the thickness of the glass between the points. And you just don't want that. We want this side, the side that's reflective front. So it's a special mirror. You got to look for it. You can't just go buy any mirror. You need one with this front reflecting glass. So it'd be very easy to confuse these sides as I was putting it together. Right now it wouldn't, because it's got this protective film on the side, the good side. But once we peel that, it could get easy to confuse them. So I'm going to take this back side and I'm just gonna use a Sharpie to put a big X on it, just so when I'm looking at a piece of it, I know, hey, that's the back. That's not the side I want to be using. And with that, we're going to go ahead and cut it from the back, because I don't want to take this off until I have to. It's protecting the glass, the reflective surface. In fact, I'm going to put a piece of towel down here to protect it further, so it's sliding on my desk, even though my desk is smooth. It doesn't look like it, it's dirty, but it's smooth. We don't want to scratch this up. So I'm going to cut my 3 pieces off of here, and then we will figure out how we're going to put those together. Okay. Nice and easy, no need to He-Man that. And with any luck at all, there it goes. Just need to cut that blue strip. So I'll go get an X-Acto to do that, and we'll do that 2 more times. After getting all my mirrors cut, I've got them taped up into this triangle. I think next time I will experiment a little bit with different triangle shapes. This is like a perfect triangle, and we can try doing tall and thin ones and whatever, but this looks pretty good. Let's see if I can, if you look in there, both that surface mirror is so clear and sharp. But you can start to see the kaleidoscope effect we're going for here, if I could get it centered. There you go. Anyway, I think this is going to be very good. We shall see. Okay, so I got this little piece of clear plastic that we're going to glue down in here to just act as dust protection. Put a little plastic behind the hole so dust can't get in on our mirrors. I've mixed up a little plastic weld, which has been our secret weapon on this project so far. Plastic weld to the rescue once more. Just going to put some on the outer edges a little bit here. Not being too crazy about it, just enough to hold this down inside. And being careful to not get any in the center. Trying to be careful to not get any in the center so that it doesn't clog our hole, but I see got a little close there, but I think we're good. Got a stick with a piece of tape on the end of it. Just like so. I'm going to send it down in there. There we go. And I might need to actually just let it set until that plastic weld dries. Because if I lift it, actually let's use this, we can do this. There we go. And now we'll get back in there and press that into place. Nice and firm. Just occurred to me that as I'm working on this, some dust might want to try to get down into my mirror, so I'm just going to put a little painter's tape over it for now, just to keep the dust out, and then we can remove that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cut it to shape to make it easier to remove later. We can remove that once we get everything in place. So with just a little bit of fiddling around, I'm happy with the spacers that I've got in there. That works out really well. Just got to figure out how to secure them now. Although honestly, that's may not even be necessary. Those are, that's pretty good. Still, I'll do something. I think I'm going to just do a little bit of hot glue. I'm just going to put a little hot glue on the spacers and slip them down in there. And I think that's going to be perfectly well. So that's next. Uh-oh. Put a snag on. There we go. Putting that cover on to protect it was a good move. I would have dropped hot glue down it right there. And look at how much dust is just sitting on top here. That would have fallen down in there. That would have stunk. There's going to need to be real precision here. The holes, the bottom of the holes, will need to be at, and I'm not even kidding, I'm going to say 12.5 millimeters. 12.5 millimeters, I think, is what we're looking at. 1, 2, if my eyeballs aren't playing tricks on me. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of precision I'm looking for here. So my holes, the bottoms need to be 12.5 millimeters up from this bottom edge. Well, all we can do is all we can do. Let's try our best to put them exactly there. I've got this heavy duty magnet set. Oh my gosh, where I believe it will put me at exactly 12.5 millimeters from the bottom. And I got to put 3 of these in here, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I am stressed about this. This is a real opportunity to screw up this whole project. So without further ado, let's do it. Come on now. Easy, 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 easy. Seems like a good time to mention, if I haven't already, I can't remember if I've said it yet in this video or not. I try to say it in all my videos where I make something. And that is that my videos are not how-to videos. They are how-I videos, not how-to videos. So all that's left here now is to see if it fits. See if we got that right enough. So I'm going to use a little sandpaper just to soften up the edge on this before I put it in there, just hoping it's going to help it slide around a little better. If I've done this right, it's going to be a really snug fit, and the dowels will probably be fine on their own. The glue is just a little extra something something. Okay, here we go. Let's get one of these guys in there. Oh yeah, that is a snug fit. Okay, that is a snug fit. There we go. That hit. I can feel that hit. Feels pretty well spaced on there, I think. I would say, first of all, I would say we really put that hole actually got into the correct spot, which is something of a miracle. I'm going to back this off just a hair, if it's not too late. There we go. And that's where we're going to saw this first one off. Let's see here. Sawing it off a little large here, and then now we'll go through and use sandpaper to even that all out later once I've got them all in and I feel like it's good. Okay, all 3 of those are in, and there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is we did an amazing job with all of our measurements. It is a perfect fit. The bad news is it's a perfect fit, so much so that the wood rubs and it makes this noise. I mean, that's a perfect fit. There is no play. That is like nice. It's amazing with that noise. It's the whining kaleidoscope. So either we can just turn it like tons and tons and tons and hope that eventually it wears itself in and gets smooth where it doesn't do. Or I don't even know what else. I'm wishing now that I had put a little bit of graphite in the groove. If I'd have put some graphite in the groove before I assembled it, I think that probably would solve this. I actually think that's the dowel rubbing on the groove is what we're hearing. Because I can, like, if I pull this apart, you know, that's the dowel. Oh, if I push it though, it stops. Yeah, so that's one of the dowels rubbing. I wish I'd have put graphite in there. Oh, yeah. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope that it's right there. Maybe eventually it will loosen up. But anyway, it's put together. I haven't even looked through it yet. Oh, that's very cool. Okay, let's see if I can put this in front of the lens and show you. Hold on a second. We're going to tilt up here if we can to get some light behind us. And then let me find the lens is over here somewhere. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. I don't know that it's going to focus properly here. Can I get this? Oh, that's not bad. Look at that. Except, nope, it's hard to hold it. And hold on, we're not giving up. Let's get it up, 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 up. Back, 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 up, 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 up. And if we rotate it, you start to see, it's hard to keep it over the lens and rotate it. You start to see what we're looking at here. If I could hold it still long enough. Whoa, not knock over the camera. You start to see anyway. Not bad, right? You get the idea at any rate. It looks cool to look through it. It looks really nice. You know, clean these up. I got to clean up the knobs, get them nice and smooth. Finish it. You know, I haven't even decided how I'm going to finish it yet. I don't even know. Normally you'd put a finish on something while it's on the lathe, but this one I decided to wait. Don't even know what we're going to finish it with yet. We'll figure that out in time. And then we're ready to try to make some serious ones. And I think the serious ones will get a smaller disc here, smaller puck. Make sure we cut our measurements right. We'll have a little more of an elegant shape instead of this great big jug shape. We'll definitely put some graphite in the groove. And I think probably a little fewer ingredients in the puck, although I gotta tell you that looks pretty awesome when you look through it. It's pretty good. And here's my finished kaleidoscope. I ended up going with just a clear lacquer on here, and I'm happy with that decision. It's a very nice look and feel. I do see some tool cut marks on here from my lathe, so I need to improve my smoothing cuts at the end of making things. I'll do better at that in the future. And overall, very, very happy with how this looks. Oh, and by the way, with enough rough turning, the squeak is gone, the quack is gone. I was able to smooth that out. This turns really nice now. So all in all, a very successful project, and best of all, lays a really nice groundwork for future ones that I'll do even a better job on. So excited about this. Thanks for watching, and thanks for playing along with me as we figured this out as we went.